Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning bilingual sexuality podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. Sí, Please Me tiene subtítulos en español. I'm thrilled to announce that Please Me is the #1 ranked sexuality podcast in the USA and worldwide. And welcome to Season 6. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sex education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Last week, I spoke with urologist Dr. Stephanie Zwanitzer, host of Between the Sheets, about real treatments for sexual health concerns like vaginal dryness, erectile dysfunction, and hormone changes. If you're navigating any of that, go back and listen. This week, I'm joined by Karen Bigman, the bold midlife sexpert on a mission, here to bust myths, break taboos, and talk real intimacy after 50. Huge thanks to everyone who's rated, reviewed, and shared Please Me. Because of you, we're now the #1 sexuality podcast. Your support amplifies vital conversations about pleasure, healing, and sexual empowerment. Keep the momentum going, leave a review, share your favorite episode, and help us reach even more listeners. This week, I'm shouting out 5 amazing countries where Please Me hit #1. Mauritania, Egypt, Lithuania, Costa Rica, and Nepal. Thank you for tuning in and turning up the volume on pleasure. I'm also raising funds for survivors of the devastating magnitude 6.9 earthquake in the Philippines. My editor, who is based there, and her community were deeply affected. She recommended a trusted organization that provides long-term aid to those impacted. Please check the show notes for the donation link. Any support you can give is truly appreciated. Want to ask me a question for the Please Me podcast? Join the conversation on Patreon or subscribe to my Substack newsletter. Both communities give you access to exclusive content, updates, and the chance to have your questions featured on the show. Please Me is for mature audiences, so sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me.
Number 2, judge me if you want, but go get laid. Go start having some sex. Go and see what it feels like to be with somebody new. Learn your body, learn what you like, learn what kind of guys you like. Do you like them tall, fat, short? Learn about different penises, circumcised, uncircumcised. I mean, there's all different things that you're that on one hand you're like scary, on the other hand it's like, oh wow, this is like so cool.
ASN Lifestyle Magazine is your go-to source for sex-positive, sophisticated content, covering everything from the swinger lifestyle and adult entertainment to intimacy, wellness, and more. You can read every digital issue for free, and subscribers get access to exclusive content. See the show notes for the link to subscribe and check out their Instagram. I'm excited to share that I now have a monthly column in ASN called Big Clit Energy, a Please Me series. Don't miss it and subscribe today. Hello and welcome to Please Me, the podcast that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health by turning the sheets into our classroom. Today, I am so excited to welcome Karen Bigman to the show. She is a certified sex educator and sex and dating coach who isn't afraid to talk about what really goes on in the bedroom, especially after 50. She hosts Taboo to Truth, Life and Sex After 50, where she dishes out real talk on dating, intimacy, and pleasure with humor and zero shame. Karen helps midlife men and women ditch outdated scripts, embrace their desires, and create hotter, more connected relationships, no matter their age. So with that being said, Karen, I want to welcome you to Please Me. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to be talking to you today. I think we're going to have a really fun episode. And I'm liking all of your little accoutrements back behind you. And I just want you to point out what you have behind you and, how you use these things in your with your clients.
The artwork in the back is really to just show that there's no shame in showing off the female body in whatever form or whatever activity you'd like to do. Then I have a vulva. That's what you're seeing over there with and a penis that goes in that vulva. It's one of my my tools I used to demonstrate. And there's actually a clitoris in the back. This is all made out of macrame. And then next to the penis is, I'm trying to do this way. Okay, there we go. It's backwards. Is my model of a clitoris. For those of you that don't know, that little thing sticking out is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes, I love that you say the tip of the iceberg, because a lot of times people don't realize that the clitoris is more than just the little nub that you see on the outside of your body, right? It's a very extensive organ that's internal in the woman and is almost the size of a penis, and also has to get engorged, right? It needs to get full of blood in order for a woman to be prepared for penetrative sex, right? And a lot of times we don't realize this and we jump way ahead, right, to the penetration part without preparing the woman's body, which can cause painful sex. And so I've done episodes about that. We're not going to get into that today. What I do want to talk to you about is libido. And you say that libido is more motivation than magic, right? And I want to know what exactly you mean by that, because I feel like when women start to have like their hormones decreasing, right, and they start to tank, their desire for sex sort of diminishes. And so there is a medical explanation for why libido would go down. But also there's a psychological or emotional reason too. I would love to know your take on why you think that it's more motivation than magic.
There's actually a lot that goes into libido. So libido is your interest in sex. And what happens, starting with just from your relationship, if we're talking about in a partnered relationship, why your libido might go down. Generally, it's said that somewhere between 6 months and 2 years into a relationship, we lose that, quote, new relationship energy. That's that thing that gives us that dopamine rush every time we see our partner for the first time. And so that starts to change. Now, men tend to be more visual. So a man can see a naked body or can think about sex, visual watch porn and get a hard on right away. But for a woman, what happens when we lose that new relationship energy is that we actually need more stimulation. We need something that's going to like knock our socks off. That's going to put us in this state that it's almost like you're skydiving, like that adrenaline rush. We need more stimulation to get there. And technical term is the spontaneous desire versus responsive desire. So we become more responsive. It's not necessarily that we don't want more sex, but it just takes us longer to get in the mood. That's thing one. Thing two is, yes, when you are perimenopausal, which means you haven't yet been 12 months without a period, which is how we define menopause, your hormones are going wacko. And all your hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and particularly testosterone, contribute to your interest in sex and your ability to enjoy sex. So my example, what happened to me is as I got divorced and all of a sudden I could have many more partners and have a lot of fun and go crazy. And I was having a lot more sex, but I was having trouble orgasming. And it turned out that my testosterone levels were extremely low because testosterone contributes significantly to your libido. And so women, we all think testosterone is a male hormone, where in fact women have, and I think we have more testosterone than men when we're younger, but it turns into estrogen. So testosterone plays a huge role in that. So that will affect your interest in sex. And then there's all the other stuff that comes with menopause: hot flashes, lack of sleep, joint pain, all sorts of, you might get frozen shoulders. There's all these things, these physical ailments, and dry vagina to add to boot. And that will affect your interest in sex. Who wants to have sex when it hurts like hell? It feels like sandpaper when he's penetrating you or touching you. You're sensitive. You're not sleeping. You're sweating. I like to tell the story of when I had intercourse with a guy, and as soon as I orgasmed, I had a hot flash. So,
Oh my God.
It's really different as you age, but you can. The good
You're
news
like,
is
don't touch me. I'm too hot right now.
literally, I'm like, yeah. So,
Oh
but you
my
can get
goodness.
it back. So that's the important part. It
Yeah.
can
And
come
if
back.
you're, and absolutely look at your lab results. And if your doctor is saying, oh, you're normal, you're at perimenopause or menopause, so it's normal to have low hormones, so don't worry about it. No, it may be normal, but it's not optimal, right? So we do need to maintain optimal levels of our hormones in order to keep that libido going and to keep your vagina from becoming like the Sahara Desert, right? And so we need our hormones to be optimal. And you're saying that you couldn't reach orgasm. Did it change after you increased your testosterone levels? Were you able to then reach orgasm? Do you think that that played a part in the reason why you weren't having or you weren't able to reach orgasm?
Absolutely. There were a few things that were going on. So one was that, and I can absolutely tell I've been on testosterone now for I don't know how many years. But when I put a gel on every day, and when I put it on, I can tell like within a few hours, like I get horny. So if I put too much, I can totally tell. The other thing, it was kind of an interesting experience for me because first of all, like just having that conversation of telling your doctor that like I'm having trouble orgasming, and I have a female gynecologist, but like I had to sort of convince her that this was not normal. And then I went to the sexual medicine practice, and they had a medical professional there, a nurse practitioner and a sex therapist. And the thing that actually they taught me before they even looked at my testosterone is they gave me like a little bullet vibrator to try, and they sent me to the room next door and said, go try that.
Oh my gosh.
Your nerve endings are actually, the clitoris has over 10,000 nerve endings. And so your nerve endings are getting are more and more unresponsive. And so I need the vibration, and many of us need the vibration. So that was like my real sexual awakening. But the one thing I want to say to the audience in terms of doctors telling you your hormones are normal and whatever, the American Menopause Society guidelines say you want to treat symptoms, not hormone levels. So if I'm telling you that I don't have any libido, I feel like shit, my vagina's dry, whatever the other symptoms are, and your doctor tells you, well, you're not menopausal yet because you haven't gone 12 months without a period, find a new doctor. Because
Yes.
you should be treated for the symptoms. And then testosterone's controversial for women, which it should not be, because more and
Right.
more studies are showing that it's actually very effective. The issue is that testosterone is not offered for women. So they have to give you what they call off-label, which means they prescribe it in a lower dose, but it's a man's testosterone. So if I took the regular dose of testosterone, like that's what people who are going through gender change might do. So like you've got to keep the dose very low, but at low doses for postmenopausal women, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence now.
I'm so glad that you found out what you were, the reason that you were having issues with orgasming. And yes, we have a lot of nerve endings, right? But, sometimes the sensitivity can decrease because there's a decrease in blood flow. And I do talk about this at length in another episode. So I will definitely attach that episode to the show notes. So make sure that you check that out, because we're not going to get into the blood flow issue here today. But I want to talk about, because you mentioned, after your divorce and sort of re-entering into the dating world, I want to know what you think that nobody tells you about when it comes to dating after divorce. And let's just talk about the dating part of it and not the sexting part, because I want that to be another question. I want to get into the sexting in a different question. So let's just talk about dating after divorce. What do you think women need to know?
Get your shit together first. I can't tell you how many times my heart was broken in the beginning, and how many times I thought like he's the one, and I had these expectations, and I learned so much about behavior because I was fortunate. My ex-husband and I, it was a very amicable divorce. We financially I was fine. I had a lot of I had the foundations that most women don't have, or many women don't have. So I had that good fortune. So I wasn't looking for someone to support me financially, which can often be a motivation. But what I wasn't ready for was that other people had also not gone through all their stuff. And like, even though I was divorced and all that was behind me and we had a good relationship and my kids were okay, they were older. I hadn't really processed what it was that was attracting me to these particular men and what was going on. And this has been an 11-year process for me in general. But what I tell my clients now, and what I tell anybody who's post-divorce is, first of all, like, figure out what was going on, what went wrong, or what your part was in it, and understand that, because, and why you chose your partner, because if not, you're just going to choose the same partner again and repeat the same mistakes. Number two, judge me if you want, but go get laid. Go start having some sex. Like, go and see what it feels like to be with somebody new. Learn your body, learn what you like, learn what kind of guys you like. Do you like them tall, fat, short? Learn about different penises, circumcised, uncircumcised. I mean, there's all different things that you're gonna that on one hand, you're like, scary. On the other hand, it's like, oh, wow, this is like so cool. Like, I get to try all this that I never thought I would be able to do in my life. So there's like dealing with your emotions. There's dealing with your sexual understanding your body sexually. And then, like, one of the mistakes that I made, and I have to confess, I've made them up until fairly recently, is just picking someone who's in front of me instead of really navigating what are the red flags, what do I see, what's my gut telling me. Just because he likes me doesn't mean he's right for me or she's right for you. And so those are the big things that I think I learned over time. And the more I feel stronger in who I am, the better dater I am.
Absolutely. I love all of those tips, because unless you are working through your previous issues, your previous trauma, right? And even your previous trauma from the divorce, possibly, you could possibly be, repeating those same patterns if you don't really look carefully at the reasons why the marriage failed in the first place. So
Right.
I absolutely agree that we need to continue working on ourselves really throughout our whole lives, but like looking specifically after divorce at all of the reasons why the marriage failed so that you don't make the same mistakes again. And now let's talk about sexting, because I think that, this was not something that was really a big thing prior to me getting married, but after getting divorced, I was thrown into a whole new world of, online dating, and sexting is something that comes with that now. So I'd love to hear your take on sexting.
The problem I have with texting in general and is that it's really easy. And so you start to think you're building a relationship with somebody, but you're just texting. And they may start to get more flirtatious, and it feels good. You get the dopamine rush when you get like one of those hot texts, the flirty texts. So you think you're getting to know somebody, and the reality is you're not. And so while I think sexting is a great tool to build arousal in a relationship when you're looking forward to seeing somebody or when you're trying to like re-spark something, I think it's a false narrative that we create in a new relationship, because it's just a computer or a phone that's giving you that information. It's not really the person.
Yes, it can be very meaningless if that person is sending that same text or sext or picture to multiple people, right? That they may be dating multiple people, and you really don't know unless you ask them outright, is this just for me? And, they could also lie. So, absolutely, the experience that you have one-on-one with a person are going to really help you to move forward. The sexting part or the texting part is, to create that next date, but don't rely on that to be part of what you consider a relationship, quote unquote, because it's really not, right? And that's what you're saying.
Right. And I'd also caution you, one of the things on the apps, it's also so easy for somebody to be just texting and never getting to a phone call. And I noticed a couple of things. One is that is a modus operandus of bots or catfishers. So they'll text you, they'll even get your phone number, start texting you, but they'll never quite get to the phone call. And so you're on, and they sound great and their pictures are perfect, and they end up, it's a scam. That's number one. Number two, someone who just can't, like, they just hear, hi, how are you? Like, there's no depth to the conversation. So I usually get to a point where, let's say they ask me, like, so, what kind of work do you do? I don't like to tell them in text because, of course, being in the sex space, that implies some things for a lot of people. I always say, I would love to tell you, how about a phone call? Or I'd love to chat and explain it to you. Would you be interested in a phone call? I always try to move it to a phone call. And I do have a Google Voice number, so I try to make sure it's safe. But that way, if they're not real, like, I don't waste my time just continuing to text them, because if they don't want to speak to me, then they're just playing. They just want the likes.
That's a great tip, definitely. And having an alternative phone number early on, because your actual phone number is attached to so much data, and you don't want to necessarily give that phone number out initially, because they can find out a whole lot of things about you. And I had the experience once where I gave somebody my phone number, and he went on to, like, I think Facebook or something, and he took a screenshot of me and sent it to me. And I was shocked, like, where did you get this, picture of me? And, he said that he got it from Facebook. And I was like horrified, like, you're looking at my, like, Facebook, like, that's kind of like an invasion of privacy, because I have, like, my kids on there, and, like, I don't need you to, like, know all about my whole life. And of course, a lot of times people are going to look into you, they want to do that research, right? And so, being careful with the data that you share with people is super important. So I love that you mentioned having an extra phone number that is safe.
Yeah, I mean, they can find you if you use the same pictures on your profile as you use, like, in LinkedIn or Facebook. There is an image match. I've actually used
Mm-hmm.
it for someone to see if somebody was real. So, and if you, like, I had one person, their voice did not match their picture. Like, I knew right away, as soon as I said, "Oh, you sound, French African," because I'm Canadian. Like, I know that. And he just started to change the subject. And I said, "You're giving me the creeps." And I hung up. And I mean, he was definitely a scammer. So you got to learn that. You got to be careful with your pictures. And you also, I think we tend to, we're so excited to be out there again, especially if you've been in a long relationship, that we tend to ignore the red flags or the gut feelings. And there's a couple of expressions that a good friend taught me. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them. When someone suggests something that feels uncomfortable, it feels uncomfortable for a reason, and just move on. There's another person right behind them, I promise you.
Absolutely. There are so many fish in the sea, right? And we're having fun fishing right now.
Exactly. And that's the key, is to go at it having fun. Look at it as, I'm going to go out, I'm going to meet somebody. I love online dating because I've met so many people, and, like, from creeps to, like, fantastic people that became my friends, not my boyfriends. It's a great tool, but if you put too much into it, it's not going to work for you. It's kind of like, just go in there like, I'm going and just meeting some new people. I'm going to have some fun with it.
Absolutely, I agree. And, in the vein of, like, reinventing ourselves, right? We have the opportunity to do things, and to explore things that maybe we had only thought about in the past, or maybe read about in a book, like kink, or like fantasies that we'd never discussed before. And so I would love your take on communication and how you bring these things up in a new relationship.
It's so funny because since I've been doing this, I can talk now. I'm, like, so much more open with my conversations and my dating, and I forget that most people can't talk about these things so easily. But the first and most important conversation that I have with someone, and particularly because of the work I do, it comes up very early, is that one of my criteria for getting naked with someone is full STI testing, including herpes, which is, by the way, not something that is in a standard STI panel, and also not a deal breaker, but something I want to know about. So that conversation, I think if you can have that one first, or, obviously after a couple of dates when you think you might be getting intimate, it becomes something that everything else starts to become easier, because that can be a really odd conversation with somebody. But if they don't want to have it and they don't want to do the testing, that tells you something about the person. Most of the time, they're pretty open to it. And it kind of, it's like a level of relief. And then you can start talking about more things related to sex, like what are you into, how far you want to take it on day 1 or day 2 or day 3, or ultimately what are you looking for? Do you play, are you kinky? Is that something that interests you? Are you interested in learning about it? I just met someone who's in a new relationship and she wants to explore beyond the relationship, but doesn't think her boyfriend will be into it. And I'm like, well, don't tell them you want to go to a kink party right away. Maybe you want to just bring something small into the bedroom and start to figure it out. So I think people, especially in midlife, especially after they've been in long-term relationships, they're much more interested than you'd be surprised how interested they are. For me, it's just even bringing a vibrator into the bedroom, which is just something that's just part of my toolkit when I get intimate. And most of them have never seen that, and they're like, "Oh wow, this is really cool," and they love to use it. So it's uncomfortable, but if you start with, if you can, with the STI conversation, and if not, just like being honest. It's been a really long time since I've been intimate with somebody. I'm kind of nervous. That's fair. Tell me. Or what do you like? What do you like your parts to be called? There's so many ways that you can introduce it slowly, because sometimes certain words are crude to me, but they might be really hot to somebody else.
100%. And I think that is a conversation that people do need to have. Dirty talk can be really hot, but it can also be a turn on if you say something that really sounds like disgusting to me, and for someone else, it might be a huge turn on. So having those conversations about the details is so super important. And I agree, I do consider myself the face of safe sex. And so I love talking about safety in the bedroom and consent, etc. And the STI testing is so, so important. And, maybe in a hookup, you're not going to have this conversation, but if it's something that but you do need to have the conversation about what you are comfortable doing if you're not going to have the testing ahead of time, right? So maybe you eliminate certain things like oral sex because, you can transmit STIs during oral sex. And so maybe you eliminate that in a hookup situation and only use a condom, those sorts of things. So having these conversations is essential. And you bring up your vibrator and how this is like a very important aspect to your current sexual life, right? And I honestly can't live without my vibrator. I take it everywhere I go.
I wear them on my ears.
You've got your little vibrator earrings. I love it. And I was looking at your social media and I saw a clip about you talking about your vibrator and how you really just discovered using toys in your 50s. I would love to know, how you are now introducing your toys to your current relationships and how that goes, because like you mentioned before, some people are really interested in playing with it. I know that some men that I've had experiences with feel intimidated by the vibrator. Like you only need their penis and that's all that you should ever need. And really the bottom line is that 95% of women need external clitoral stimulation in order to reach orgasm. And so if you want to close that orgasm gap for yourself, and I'm talking about those people out there, not us, right? But, those people out there that may have an orgasm gap with their partner or experience that on a regular basis in different relationships, that we need to advocate for ourselves and for our pleasure. So I would love to hear about your experience with introducing that into your relationships.
It's really interesting because when I tell a guy that's what I need, I need a vibrator no matter what you do. At the end of it, if you want me to actually have an orgasm, a vibrator has to be involved. It's like their badge of honor. They are going to be the guy, because you haven't been with a guy like me who's going to bring you to orgasm. I've had that happen repeatedly, and I'm like, okay, like go to town, but at some point you're going to say, okay, get the friggin' vibrator out there. So some guys take it as an indictment of their ability to please you, and I think the most important thing you need to explain to them is this has nothing to do with you. My pleasure is my responsibility, and I know that I need vibration. I'm menopausal, postmenopausal, perimenopausal, whatever you want to call it. Things aren't working the way they used to. I have to have sex differently. And I think that is one of the things that everyone can learn, is that sex is not static. We do not have sex the same way we did in our 20s. We don't get aroused as quickly. Things are different, things are changing, but it also gives you an opportunity to try so many different. I mean, there's a million kinds of vibrators. I have a partner that we have I don't know what you want to call it these days, situationship, friends with benefit. And he's gotten into like all sorts of, we started with just me and now he's got all sorts of anal plugs and toys that we like, he's loving it. So I'm like, you go, boy, if that's what makes you happy and I can contribute to that and we vibrate together, that's even better.
Absolutely. I love when people are enthusiastic about toys because really, the bedroom is an adult playground, right? And so toys always make things more fun, and there are so many different things that you can get to really accentuate or improve your sex life. And, from swings to pillows to, toys to insert to, things that vibrate on him, on you. I mean, there's just so many different things, and it just makes things more fun, and it makes things more varied too, right? Because you don't want to get in a rut. Right. You want to kind of continue to explore and create the sex life that you've dreamed of, and I feel like toys can really help to implement that. So I want to talk to you about, and I think this is kind of like a funny topic because when you are meeting somebody new or having sex with somebody new, you really don't know what to expect and what things are going to be like, in terms of hygiene. And I know for me that if I know that I'm going to be intimate with somebody, I landscape down there and I make sure that I smell good and I put my deodorant on and my perfume and I'm like, ready, right? But not every man does the same, right? So I want to ask you about manscaping and what your expectations are, because I feel like it's important and, it's not something that we often talk about, but I do think it's important. So would love to know your thoughts.
It's really interesting because I hadn't seen it. I had a long-term boyfriend for 5 years. We broke up now. It's been 4 years, but he used to just trim himself all over. And that was kind of surprising to me. And since then, I want the guy completely manscaped. Like I don't like the hair. And it's so interesting because I never knew it was a thing guys did. So I'm like totally pro manscaping. However, as far as womanscaping goes, I had a guy ask me to shave everything off, and I'm one for having a little bit down there for, I feel like it protects me. It helps with rubbing against my jeans or whatever. And I just like to have a little bit of hair down there. I think it's weird for me. To have no hair. And I don't do anything for him. So if he tells me that's what he wants, then it's not going to be me. So if I won't, but for myself, I like a certain, I don't know what you want to call it, design, however you want to put it. But as far as a man goes, I really like, I all the men out there, like, start manscaping. I think women enjoy it.
I definitely think it makes a difference. You want something neat and clean looking, And so I definitely am one for yes to the manscaping. The worst thing that you want is to go down there and it be a jungle and you're like, oh God, I don't even know if I want to touch that,
But he doesn't like, most guys don't like that either. So think about it, what's good for the goose.
Exactly. That's true. That's true. I agree. I'm with you too with a little bit of hair. I personally think that like being completely naked down there looks like a child, and I am a grown woman and I don't want to look like a child. So to me, it's important to look like a woman. But I definitely like to trim and keep things nice and clean and neat. So definitely what's good for the goose. Exactly. So I want to get into our role play. And I think our role play is going to be really fun today. And this season, season 6, we're going to be talking specifically about what gives us the ick. And so Karen and I discussed this ahead of time, and we decided that what gives Karen the ick is when she's dating somebody new and that person starts talking really badly about their ex. And that gives her the ick. And so, with that being said, we are going to jump into the role play now. Are you ready, Karen?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right, and action. So we are, I don't know, at a bar, and we are having drinks, and we are girlfriends. And so let's take it from there. So, Karen, I heard you're dating somebody new. I want to know about them. Tell me about them.
Well, at first I thought he was so cute and fun, and he has a great job, and he likes to do all the things I like to do. But somewhere very soon into our first date, all he could talk about was his horrible ex-wife and how she alienated the kids from him, and she's such a extreme words about her, and really, really dissing his ex-wife. And I'm always curious about that, because I feel like if he's saying that about her, number one, he's still processing, and number two, it's not very kind to be talking about someone. And number three, like, what's your role in this, that she has behaved that way towards you? So right away, like, red flags started flying.
I think it's such a big red flag when a man is talking badly about his ex and maybe calling her names like she's crazy, or, what's she crazy about? I would love to know the details about that, because if you're calling her crazy, there's a reason why she's going crazy. What did you do to make her go crazy? That's what I'm thinking in my mind. And I'm thinking about this show that I've been watching lately on Netflix called Love Con Revenge. Have you seen it?
No, what's it called? Love Con
Love
Revenge?
Con Revenge. And
Oh, I have to watch it.
it's about romance fraud. And I have to say that, like, every man that's on this show that has defrauded his girlfriend or wife, etc., of money, all of them, every single one of them, talk badly about their exes with their current partner. And the current partner is someone that they're also trying to defraud. So it's interesting because I think psychologically, when you hear that, when you're in a relationship, you're thinking, oh, well, that's not me. I'm not going to be the crazy one or whatever. And I have an opportunity with this guy who's really great on paper, right?
Yep.
And that's not going to be me. But really, if he's treating his ex that way and being so disrespectful to that person, what's to say that in 6 months or however long down the road,
Yep.
when you guys start to enter your possibly, demise of your relationship, he's not going to treat you the same way, right?
Definitely. And I actually have the advantage of having been a divorce coach. So I did that for a few years. And one of the things I noticed was that there are two sides to every story. And 9 times out of 10, each side is, whether it's a little bit crazy or had a major role. Once in a while, there's someone who's truly unhealthy and has major psychological issues. Unfortunately, that was my ex-boyfriend's ex-wife. But for the most part, there's two sides to every story. And sometimes it was my client, and that was the quote, crazy one. So yeah, there's absolutely it's something you need to process. I mean, I like to hear the man who says, we had a really rough go of it. It was hard on the kids. There was quite a bit of drama, but I've learned to deal with it, or we've worked it out, or we have a process whereby we don't like explode it, whatever it is. Like, yes, maybe he or she was crazy before, but now we have I figured out how to deal with it.
Yes, because there's a good way and a bad way to deal with everything, right? And if you're
Yep.
constantly trying to tear that other person down, it's only really tearing you down in the process as well. So I love that this was your ick. I absolutely agree. I think it's such a turnoff when somebody is, in a relationship or in a date and then speaking about their ex. And I'm going to give an example of what happened to me one time. I was on a first date, mind you, first date. And the guy he was a widow, and he had lost his wife over a year before. And maybe he wasn't ready to be dating at this point. He probably wasn't really. But he told me the story of the fact that she passed away and that she died of cancer. And, he had a daughter. And then he started crying.
Oy.
And
Poor guy.
I felt bad for him too.
Right.
But I was like, this is a date. Like, what the heck is going
This is
on
therapy,
right now?
right?
Yeah, like I didn't come here to like be your therapist. I came here to like go on a date and enjoy myself. And now I'm like consoling you and I don't even know you, so that was obviously a gigantic red flag. But he was obviously not ready to be dating at that point. But yeah, absolutely. Like that, he wasn't talking badly about her. It was just like the emotion about her passing was just too raw still, So, having these conversations and then really feeling what you're feeling, right? I felt like, what the heck? This is no good. I like shouldn't see this person again. And like trusting yourself to say no, right? It's okay to move on and move to somebody else. It's fine. Like there are so many people out there that could be a better match for you.
Yeah, and I'm really particular now too, because I've had the experience of dating somebody that I really fell for. That I was the first woman after a 29-year marriage, and he was fairly newly separated. And I knew it going in, but I just still went for it because there were all these other great things. And that is something that I now, if somebody tells me they're newly divorced or they're, newly separated after a long relationship, or they haven't done the work or they haven't gone to therapy or coaching, I just don't date them. I will not date them because I know no matter what they say, I'm self-coached. I've done the work or whatever. If they haven't done the work or they're still fresh, just moved out kind of thing, like have fun. That's why I said at the beginning of the interview, like go out and have some fun and have some short relationships. Just see what it's like. What does it mean to show up for somebody else and show up for yourself and feel good and let go of what happened before and try to create something new. And that's a process.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's dating long term and then there's like dating for fun. And it's okay to just be dating for fun and that's fine, And if you're in that early stage of just getting divorced or just breaking up and you want to get out there and just like kind of have a good time, but not really, commit to anything specific, that's okay too. As long as you're upfront about it. I think it's important to really be honest with people and not to give them the false sense of like, you're looking for, they say they're looking for something long-term. Okay, well, I'm going to say that too. No, just be honest. Like we are grown-ups here. We can handle a lot more than people give us credit for.
And don't think you're going to change him. I mean, if his profile says fun, casual dates and you're looking for a long-term relationship, know that he's looking for fun, casual dates. And so don't, I'm going to be the one that's going to get him to, you won't. Like I said before, when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Absolutely. And with that, I'm going to end scene. Well, that was really fun and I think very insightful. And so I want to make sure that my listeners can find you. Where can we find you?
So my podcast is called Taboo to Truth, Life and Sex After 50. I'm on all the podcast platforms. I have a YouTube channel, a Taboo to Truth podcast, website, Taboo to Truth. I have an adult sex ed masterclass, Hotter, Wilder, Wiser, also on my website. On LinkedIn, I'm Karen Bigman. So I just launched my Substack newsletter. So that's also Karen Bigman, at Karen Bigman on Substack.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, definitely. You can find her everywhere, basically. And you can find me on pleaseme.online. As always, all of my webinars are there. I have a great sex toy store there. Lots of great resources, education-wise, for sexual health and sexuality. And health coaching. If you're interested in health coaching or intimacy coaching, you can also reach out to me there on the contact page. And I want to just mention that, now that my show is number one in the USA and globally, yay, giving myself a round of applause here. I'm looking to have nominations for the Webby Awards. So if you are out there and you want to support the show and you want to nominate me for a Webby Award, these are basically the big awards for podcasting, and there are a lot of different categories that Please Me can fall under. So I will include the link in the show notes as well if you're interested in supporting me in that way. And again, thank you so much for listening today. Thanks for being on the show, Karen.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.
If you're feeling disconnected from your body, struggling with intimacy, or facing a sexual health condition, you're not alone. There is no shame in what you're experiencing, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. But the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to reclaim your confidence, pleasure, and connection. That's why I offer a free 15-minute discovery call to explore what's going on and whether working together is the right next step. Spots fill quickly, so don't wait. The link is in the show notes. Grab your time now.
I want to personally invite you to join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, bonus episodes, and early releases. Already there is a lot of bonus content on there with many webinars that I've done in the past and a show that I've never released to the public before. My show is completely self-funded, and when you are able to support me in this way, I'm able to spread my message of body positivity, self-love, and women's empowerment, and empowerment in general around sexuality around the globe. And so with that being said, I appreciate everyone who has already joined Patreon. And if you've thought about joining, now's your nudge to do so. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.